Hunger strikes, human chains, escalating anti-ICE protests, elected officials being pepper sprayed, and a governor being turned away from a facility in her own state.
Hold the line. Hold the line. We didn't escalate shit.
That's what Memorial Day weekend looked like in New Jersey this year. Right? And more specifically, this whole shit show is all going down in Delaney Hall, which is an ICE detention center in New Jersey, where, for at least several days, there's been an ongoing hunger and labor strike over the facility's god-awful conditions, as well as the immigration system in general. You had a letter signed by 300 detainees saying that those inside were detained without warrants and that they don't have adequate legal representation, saying they're met by judges with too heavy caseloads. Sometimes they go without translators, and their meetings are often canceled and delayed for months. In this letter reading, we feel vulnerable and, in a way, kidnapped, detained without justification, not to mention that we are being tortured physically and psychologically due to the poor food resources provided. They then go on to say that sickness has run rampant inside, that COVID and the flu are spreading fast, right? And that those with serious conditions like HIV, cancer, diabetes, and heart problems, they're not receiving the care they need. And so for all those reasons, they launched this hunger and labor strike, with their initial demands being to close Delaney Hall and release everyone detained there. And you've seen many advocates kind of highlighting the organization that it took to get this letter out, saying that it's actually unusual and impressive, a testament to how bad things really are inside. And it was Gabriela Soto, the wife of one of the organizers on the inside, Martin Soto, who actually spread the news about the strike. She's been organizing protests outside of the facility as well, all while being several months pregnant. And the protests, they've grown substantially when word spread about the hunger strike, and then things really started heating up when ICE tried transferring Martin Soto. According to the outlet The City, Gabriela was waiting in line to visit Martin on Sunday when she noticed a man being shoved into a van. When she realized that it was actually her husband, she rushed over, saying that she and Martin were both screaming and banging on the van, her on the outside, him on the inside, with then other protesters joining her and forming a human chain around the facility to block ICE from leaving with Martin.
Lock arms! Lock arms! Somebody needs to record! Record in case there's violence! We're not moving.
Because a big thing to note here is that Martin Soto reportedly isn't supposed to be transferred. According to the executive director of the ACLU of New Jersey, Martin has a court order preventing his transfer to any other facility. So you've got this massive protest with the human chain preventing ICE from going anywhere, and that is also when elected officials start to show up. Right, we'll start with New Jersey Representative Rob Menendez, who came to Delaney Hall around 8 Sunday evening for the purpose of seeing Martin Soto for himself, as well as a general oversight visit. But rather than just getting that visit over and done with, ICE had Menendez waiting all night long. In fact, he reportedly had spent the entire night pacing the fenced-in parking lot, occasionally talking to Gabriela and other advocates through the fence. And the supposed justification as to why he was being shut out reportedly shifted and changed throughout the night. First, it was because it was too late in the day. Then it was because of safety concerns regarding the protest. And according to Menendez, this just kept up despite his many suggestions for a solution. He said he offered to meet with Martin in an isolated room instead of walking to his housing unit, to speak with him over video call, or even have staff send a video of Martin giving a message to his wife. With Menendez saying at around 2 o'clock in the morning, they said no to every single thing. Now the only option is staying here to make sure that at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, they don't try to move him. And it wasn't until later that morning that they finally allowed him inside, where he reportedly found confirmation at everything that the detainees claimed in their letter. With them saying that he spoke to a lot of people on the inside, including a young woman who just wanted to go to her high school graduation, a pregnant woman who was trying to get medical care, and a man who showed him a carton of milk that had gone rancid. With them saying, I heard just desperation from so many people in there. But also, he wasn't able to meet Martin Soto because ICE had successfully gotten him transferred to a different facility. And with that, you had a DHS spokesperson saying after, quote, agitators obstructed the vehicle's path, preventing the transfer, they removed about 70 protesters and got Martin moved. And that's a serious concern that advocates have, that ICE is just going to separate those engaging in the hunger strike and spread them out to different facilities to dilute their message. Though for their part, ICE and DHS have actually denied that a hunger strike's even happening, swearing up and down that they provide, quote, 3 meals a day, clean water, clothing, bedding, showers, soap, and toiletries and dadding. Illegal aliens also have access to phones to communicate with their family members and lawyers. Certified dietitians evaluate meals. In fact, ICE has higher detention standards than most U.S. prisons that hold actual U.S. citizens. But it also wasn't just Menendez that saw inside of that facility. Senator Andy Kim was also allowed into the building and ended up backing up what Menendez found, saying many of them raise big problems when it comes to getting medical treatment, the food being inedible, water problems. One judge has 74 cases before them just on Tuesday. This is clearly a farce of a judicial process, with them even calling for the facility to be shut down entirely. And Kim himself actually got involved in the protests outside as well, coming out to de-escalate a heated situation between protesters and ICE agents. And also, when I say heated, I mean agents reportedly tried moving a military-style vehicle that Kim described as a tank with an armed guard towards the crowd. And it wasn't until Kim walked down and went over to support the protesters that the agents appeared to back off a little bit. But then also, soon after, they fired pepper balls and mace into the crowd, catching Kim as well.
We're shooting! Lean over, lean over. Yo! What the
He ended up having to sit down with the protesters to have his eyes rinsed out. And then on Monday afternoon, we saw New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill making an appearance at the protest as well, right? And she stood in the crowd listening to people talk about their loved ones inside who weren't getting the medical care they needed, about the rotten and spoiled food, and way more. And you had Sherrill saying, no matter what your immigration status is, you shouldn't be treated with anything less than dignity in this country. But she also wasn't able to actually see it for herself, with a spokesperson saying that she was denied entry into the facility. So with that, you had DHS pushing back, saying that Governor Sherrill's visit to Delaney Hall is nothing more than a political stunt on Memorial Day, when visitation is currently suspended due to riots outside of the facility. And actually, Sherrill was not universally loved with the crowd as well, with many protesters getting in her face about not showing up earlier in the weekend, or even jeering when she left after about an hour. So as of now, this remains a developing situation that we should definitely keep eyes on.